JB here, JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. February 5th, 2025, about 3:27 on this fine Wednesday afternoon. Talk quick about the markets. Some names I'm looking to go from there. It's gonna be a quick rant. S&P up about a third of a percent here. The markets are now green for the week, and the S&P, which was pretty much flat coming into today, now in the green. Who'd have thunk it after this past weekend and all the headlines and uh, remarkable stuff. I'm being a little sarcastic there, but the market tends to just march on, I guess you would say. So we'll see how things all play out. Earnings after the bell yesterday with Google and AMD. It's almost like even with Google down today, their $75 billion in capex spending you see the energy sector going. You see, well, some of the nuclear names. You see Broadcom, some of these other names that might benefit from that higher spend rallying today. So it was almost like a bullish report, And hindsight, maybe I should have looked at the rest of the networks this morning, but great stuff there. So you take a look at the market, SPY's over 600, uh, nice there. And then we'll see how things play out after the close. We have ARM, and who else? There's Qualcomm after the close today. Then we have Amazon tomorrow, and the jobs report on Friday. So those are kind of like the next. I would say the jobs report probably takes is going to be the most important piece of data this coming week. Funny, ISM data came out this morning and at 10 o'clock, and the markets got rattled a little bit. It's weaker than expected. I'm like, wow. I'm like, even if it was weaker than expected, I think that would be bullish. So we'll have to see how the market reacts to a weaker than expected jobs report on Friday if that happens. So great sign there. Also, you look at yields still we were taking on big time on the chin earlier. Uh, Yields were at lows at about the 2 o'clock hour and still looking great here. So big move in yields today. And I think it just provides a nice backdrop, especially the smaller cap names that haven't really participated. So that's the overall market. So then just some individual names. And first, I'll talk about Shopify. Over that 120 handle was actually almost near 122 just a little while ago, well, at about 215. I was almost looking to close the calls, but I have a plan, right? So I locked a lot in for profits, just riding some freebies. So I'll hold them into tomorrow, and then Amazon, right? So I have to think even if it's a decent number from Amazon, it's going to push Shopify. It's like it broke that 121, 120.47 handle was important. Now it broke through that. It's like it broke the seal. Now I think it's new highs. So we'll see how it all plays out. But I think it might trade up to 125. So that's what I'll hold those calls for. But a nice trade again this week on Shopify. SSYS just sitting here, SSYS, pretty much flat for the day. I guess to me, it's a good sign considering it's 20% move on Monday and 10% move on Tuesday. I was possibly looking to get some of the March 15s out to cover costs, but I'll just hold those, wait for a double. But like I've been saying, really like this name, especially if it gets up to 14. I think it heads to 20 possibly, but I'll be patient, adding more strikes. Want to see more follow through. Which brings me to TDOC. So TDOC announced an acquisition this morning, uh, Catapult Health, which I guess more they do more how do you call that? Test at home, right? So when you have this new environment of healthcare where you have virtual healthcare, but now you can do the testing and mail it in, and there's other things that help have healthcare be more remote. So I guess this acquisition is kind of more in line with that. And then watching, and I still have the February 12 50s. They came back to life. It was rallying over 11. They have earnings on February 25th. So I figured might as well try and might as well get some more calls for some possible follow through. They had that Amazon news recently. They, I just, at some point, this thing's going to embark on a nice rally. So all the way up to 1140 earlier today, then melted. I still like this one for higher. So, I was talking about that 200-day moving average. It held that at the start of February, and now it's off to the races. The 50-day moving average was 1016. Another good sign. It held that yesterday. So, not that I'm going to add any more strikes, but I really like this one for upside. That's TDOC. VKTX. I added those strikes yesterday, the February 21st, just to play into earnings. I was hoping for more premium builds. I didn't want to wait till 350 to close some of the calls out. So I closed out some of the strikes just for small profits. I held a few runners. Like I've been saying, there's not much in a way that I think it's due in regards to earnings. Of course, when you have biotech names early stage, a lot has to do with their cash position, their runway, the cash runway, and then updates on their studies. And that's probably the most important, the commentary, any surprises, and the short interest, right? So you take those things, combine them, and it's a possibility that if there's any surprises, it could squeeze. So I'll just hold those runners. Thankful or lucky to get some premium build into the report to cover at least get some out, and then I'll just hold those runners. The thing is, in lieu of trying to look for later strikes, the February 21st kind of give me an opportunity at least to have a little piece into earnings, and then if there is some surprise, I could still get some strikes tomorrow. So that's VKTX. I've been talking about a line all week for some premium build for earnings. That hasn't happened yet. I think I did my mark was, I think it was 5.5 by 7.5. What did I put up here? I'm trying to see what I had up here earlier this afternoon. Where is it? I'm trying to find where I had it here. Of course, I don't have it up here. Well, I don't. But I think it was 5.5 by 7.5 on the 265s. Those are 6.5 by 8.5. And then the 270s are 35 by 70. So with 27 minutes left in the day, probably doesn't make sense to try and do some premium build. But it's had this in the past where far out of the money calls got had some premium build into the close. So you could get 275, 280s, 25 cents, and then by 350, those are a double. So it doesn't look like that's happening today. A name I'll be watching tomorrow for possible follow through if there's a surprise. Again, it's a volatile name, so it could be up 15% tonight. It could be down 15%. I wouldn't be surprised either way. So it's kind of it's a crapshoot. So I'll just stay away. If the 265s were 25 cents, I'd probably get them, but I'm not going to go and pay their 65 by 85 for a lotto. That's a line. A TripAdvisor I posted this morning. They actually, there was a Yahoo article out last night. It sounds like they cut jobs, but it's not. So they fired more than 150 employees. Some are contractors, some are employees from the core business, the TripAdvisor business, not the Fork or the Viator segments. I think it's great stuff. If you look, they fired 70 people back in 2023. So that's a large part of their workforce. I have to look up how many employees they have. But to me, it's just more trimming the fat, I think is always a good thing. You can always rehire people, right? So the hard part is cutting the fat. So I think that's a good sign they're doing that. I don't know if the market has really seen the news or priced that in. So good sign there. Looked like it was going to break out back up to 18. It didn't. Still has a possible bull flag setting up. Still love TripAdvisor. So that's Trip. AMD I had on the watch list. I possibly was looking for some bounce calls. It sold off after the open. And then 106 at about 10:30, and then it bounced ever since. I almost was looking for some 118s. It's a tough one, right? So it could be 120 by the end of the week. It could also just fester here in the 110, 112 area. So under that premise, I'll probably just sit on my hands on that one. But one of these days, that one's going to start to head higher. So that's AMD. And Netflix. So, I missed it. I was, trying to trade that 1,000 break. Finally did it today. Now you start looking. I'm like, Netflix probably is going to be $1,100 in the coming weeks. So don't be surprised if I add some calls. I don't know if I'll get them tomorrow, but it looks like maybe it's set finally to get 1020, 1025, 1030 and beyond on Netflix. I think that's it. I'm thinking some of the, Roku disappointing. Baidu, which couldn't really get going this morning. It looked like it was going to break out. Then it couldn't repeat what it did yesterday, and now it's kind of sitting right near the lows of the day. Still like these China ADR names. I don't think it'll take much. Someone, part of my French, farts in the wrong direction. I think it takes off. One little sneeze, what have you. So not going to add anything today. Maybe tomorrow or Friday I'll look for some calls into next week on Baidu. And I think that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.